Okay, I believe that we're connected. So we'll be starting momentarily. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I hope everyone can hear me and see me. So today we're going to talk about the Cātumahārājika Devas, the realm of the four great kings. This is the first and the lowest of the sagas, that is the sensual heavens. There are 6 of these heavens. 2 of them are still connected to the earth, that is, they're located on Mount Sinnaru. That is Cātumahārājika and Tawatingsa. Cātumahārājika that we're dealing with today is located halfway up the slope of Mount Sinnaru, on the level as the peaks of the Ugandhara mountain range that circles Mount Sinnaru. It's called the realm of the four great kings, which is a literal translation from the Pali, because it's governed by 4 devas, one for each of the cardinal directions. If you will recall the map of the world system, the beings, human beings and animals and so on, live mostly on 4 islands spread out in the outer ocean, one in each direction. And the world that we know is Jambudipa, is the southern island. So these each of these kings has authority and responsibility as a guardian of the direction he is assigned or is responsible for. There's Datarata, king of the east, and each of these kings also has rulership or authority of beings. And Datarata, king of the east, is the ruler or the lord of the Gandhabas. These are the lesser devas that in the heaven worlds they serve the higher devas as musicians or chariot drivers, etc. Mostly we hear them in the role of musicians. Virulaka, the lord of the south, that is our direction. He is the king or the lord of the Kumbhandas. Kumbhandas are a very strange race of beings, kind of dwarfish nature, and their distinguishing characteristic is that they have enormous testicles. It's said that they can use their testicles as seats to sit on, and when they walk about they have to throw them over their shoulders to get them out of the way. Virupaka, the lord of the west, is the king of the Nagas, and Vesuwana of the north is the lord of the Yakas. Now, of these 4 kings, we don't really have too much details in the texts or stories about 3 of them. They're pretty much just identified by name, by direction, and by which class of beings they're responsible for. But we do have a bit more information about Wesawana, the king of the north. The northern island, if you will recall, is Uturu, which has two parts to it. A region that's a kind of primitive paradise, a Garden of Eden type of existence, and another region where yakas rule over human beings and use them as beasts of burden. And Wesawana is king of the yakas, and he's the ruler, and he takes some interest in the doings of this island. This King Wesawana is also known, particularly in his role as king of Turukuru. He's also known by the name of Kuwara. And in East Asia, you'll find Kuwara is often worshipped as a god of wealth and prosperity. His rulership over the yakas is sometimes harsh. He requires the yakas to serve him for a period of time. The term given is 12 years. And the common task they're set is to fetch water from Lake Anotata for him, that magical lake in the middle of the Himavant that has miraculous healing qualities. And the service is so rigorous and demanding that it's said many of them die from exhaustion. But if they complete their term, then they're given a reward by Wesawana of being given some limited authority to devour people. For example, everyone who comes under the tree. I've covered some of this in the talk on yakas. At some point, we're not told when it occurred, Wesawana became a Sotapanna, a stream winner. Whether it was in the dispensation of the current Buddha or in a previous Buddha, we're not sure. But before he became a Sotapanna, he was remarkably fierce and terrified his servants. If they displeased him, he would kill hundreds or thousands of them with a single blow. So, as I said, the other 3 we don't have any particular detailed information about them. The role of guardians of the world, the 4 kings manifest in various ways. One is the military protection against the asuras. They're the first. The asuras come swarming up the mountain. They reach the Cātumahārājika realm first, and these devas will go to war and drive them back. Sometimes they're overwhelmed, and the devas and the asuras reach as high as the Tawatingsa heaven. They also have an interest in the human realm. On Uposatha nights, that is the nights of the new and full moon, they will ride out in their chariot and make a tour of the earthly lands of humans, and then report back to in the Saka, the king of Tawatingsa, who is their overlord, they will go up to Tawatingsa and report to him on the doings in the human world, whether the humans are keeping the precepts and keeping the opposite vows or not. We often see in temples in Asia, particularly more so in East Asia than in Southeast Asia, you'll see statues in the corners of these fierce-looking warrior dudes. These are the four great kings, serving as guardians in the sacred space inside of the temple. Below the four great kings, there are a host of devas that live in Cātumahārājika, lesser devas. They're less refined than the devas of Tawatingsa. This is the lowest of the sensual heavens. We're told that and they do have some flaws, that a deva of any class, when they come to the end of their lifespan, they just disappear. And usually the term of life for a deva is determined by their karma. When their karma runs out, then they disappear. But there are two additional ways in which a deva of Cātumahārājika level can come to the end of their life. One of these is called corruption by mind. This is when a deva becomes jealous or envious of another deva who maybe has a better chariot or more dancing girls or whatever it might be, and somehow is more glorious than himself, and he becomes enraged, and their constitution is so refined that they can't survive intense emotions, and they will immediately burn up and die from succumbing to rage. The other way that they can droid early is if they're what is said corrupted by play or corrupted by enjoyment. They're enjoying some sensual pleasures, maybe listening to music or watching the dancing girls or otherwise, and they miss a meal. They forget to eat, and again their constitution is so delicate that if they miss a single meal, that it immediately means the end of their lifespan. So we can see from these examples that these devas are not necessarily of a very high moral character. They have achieved this state by their good karma in the human realm, by making merit, by generosity, and keeping the precepts. And then they're, at the time of their death as a human, they're reborn into this heavenly world. Their lifespans are very long, but not as long as the higher devas. Let's see if I can find a reference to the lifespan of a Cātumahārājika deva. uh, I'm not finding it quickly. I'm not gonna bother. It's in some hundreds of thousands of years. All the exact number. So they're much more longer lived than us. They enjoy sensual pleasures. That's part of the being a sensual dewa. They're not morally perfect. They can succumb to being lost in sense pleasures or in animosity. That is, the ill will or sensual desire can still be downfalls for them. Other than the four great kings, we have the names of a few other dewas. Last time talking about the dewas of the sun and the moon, Surya and Chandama, and they have a host of lesser dewas that attend them. There's also Dewa Pajuna, who is the lord of the sky dewas. He's classed as Cātumahārājika, and so he has ultimate responsibility for the weather. And there's a female Dewi, Mani Makala, who is the goddess of the sea, and it's her responsibility to protect sailors, human sailors, if their ships are in trouble. But the stories, we have a couple of stories about such incidents in the Jatakas, and it seems she's a bit frivolous, that the ship goes down, it's shipwrecked, and she's enjoying her dewa sense pleasures and neglectful of watching the sea, and she only discovers that the ship is wrecked after some days passed, and most of them have perished, and she manages to save one of them. There's two stories like that. Okay, so I think that's all I have to say for now about Cātumahārājika dewas, and we'll look at the chat. Let's see what questions we have here. We got one so far. Question: how pure has to be my sila in order to be reborn in Cātumahārājika? Do I have to live like a saint or just be a decent person? I think for rebirth in these lower heavens, one needs to keep the precepts at least reasonably well. I don't think one necessarily has to be a saint. Keeping the precepts is the way to get a human or dewa rebirth, but the particular added karma that leads to a heavenly rebirth is generosity. And there are suttas that talk about like different levels of generosity, like giving with a reluctant mind or giving joyfully and so on, leading to different levels of heaven. Are the wars deadly to these beings as with our conventional conflicts of this realm? And if not, how are they driven back, win or lose, etc.? It seems that from what it says there's one discussion of this exact question in the commentaries crossed, and it seems that the wars they're not completely harmless. But they're low casualty compared to our wars, and it's often just a question of who can kind of terrify the other side enough to make them run away. It's difficult to kill a dewa, and I believe the same applies to asuras, although that's not clear. That they heal from most wounds very quickly. The only way to kill them is to cut their head off. So a lot of the war is just a lot of bluster and trumpets blaring and banging of shields and trying to terrify the other side, but they do come to blows, and occasionally they actually die in the war. Next question. I recently found out about 0-point energy, Aether, Diric Sea of Energy. I've been using my contemplations as the deathless, at least how manifest existence is experienced. You see any inherent issue with this? So far I've determined it fits perfectly with the Buddhist teaching, explanation of manifest reality and unconditioned nibbana, deathless. I don't know enough about 0-point energy. I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't know enough about it. I would be careful not to equate it with the unconditioned. It's still, if it's energy that can be manifested and used in the world, then it's not unconditioned. I don't think you can find a scientific analog or explanation for nibbana. What would be any good Buddhist meditation books that you'd recommend? If for a good one for an overview of Buddhist teachings is Bhikkhu Bodhi's In the Buddha's Words. As for meditation, there are many books around. There's a real classic one that I think is quite good. It was written I think in the 50s or 60s. It's The Heart of Buddhist Meditation I think it's by Nyanaponika. The Heart of Buddhist Meditation. I think that's a very good one. Also, Gunaratna has written some books on meditation that are very good. Are beings from a Turukuru visible to people without bhavachakra? I think they are, because they are human beings. They're at the same kind of cosmic level as us, although they're a different race or breed of humans, in some ways superior to us, but they're still human. So I think they would be visible. Much respect. I listened last night to your talk on COVID and the jabs. I got in lots of trouble for that one. Are the four great kings a type of being by themselves? Do they rule over a class of beings of the same kind? Yeah, they rule over a class of beings. They're the highest of the Cātumahārājika beings. They're the overlords or rulers of that realm, although they're still subject to Saka. But there's a host and multitude of beings of the same class that live on that level. What is the cause of Asura rebirth? It seems to be better than hell, ghost, or animal. Yes, it probably is a better it probably is a better rebirth than those, but it still classes an unfortunate birth. I think if we're to be reborn in a Asura realm, it's probably are addicted in this life to power and dominance over others. Ones who seek to gain power and control over others. Your exchange on Kama with Punnadhammo kept me up until 2 a.m. last night. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Okay. Shouldn't we be able to see a Turukuru from the moon? Yeah, I mean, we don't try and interpret the Buddhist cosmology in modern terms. It doesn't work. The cosmological model that is presented in the texts is one that cannot be reconcile to modern scientific findings. It actually isn't even a very in terms of astronomical observations. It's also not very robust, let's say. I mean, even with naked eye observations of the movement of the sun and the moon and so on, it's hard to credit the physical reality of that cosmology. Not that some people didn't try. There's kind of an amusing story I came across that in the 19th century, as Western science was beginning to make headway in Asia, there was a Japanese scholar who wrote a big book trying to reconcile the observational astronomy that was known to the traditional Buddhist cosmology. And finished, he took it to his Zen teacher, and his Zen teacher kind of flipped through it. He said, "What's this about?" He told him, and his Zen teacher became huffy, and he threw the book back at him, and he said, "You blockhead, the point is to make an end of samsara, not to try and save it." With Punnadhammo, yes, okay, no, it makes sense. Okay, so are there any more last questions? The chat seems to be slowing down. Okay, so I think we'll make an end there. I'm not seeing any more action in the chat. Oh, there's one more here. Let's see. I understand it like this: Parinibbana is neither nothingness as the materialism vision or enough consciousness to feed eternal happiness. Okay, I'm not sure what you're getting at there. Okay, so let's make an ending, and next week we'll talk about Tawatingsa.